Yes.
Are we good? Okay, cool. Thank you, Austin. Okay, or give me a thumbs up if you in your video. If you can't hear me, give me a thumbs down. And I don't know. Okay, so first off, can you guys see my screen?
I can see it.
Awesome. So we're just going to go over analyzing real estate for investors. If you don't mind, I can analyze multiple different ways. What I would really like to see or hear from you guys is what kind of analyzing would you want me to do? So I can do everything from fix and flip, buy and hold, BRRRR method, to presenting an ARV. I'm just going to do high level on all of them unless you want me to dive deep more into that, okay? All right, so to continue on, who am I and who is Blackstone and Company? So we are a small team of 4. As you can see here, there is my wife, my twin brother, Tara, who isn't related to us, dang it, but you know, she's like family. And then myself as well. We've been in the business for 4 or 5 years now. And so last year we did 15 million in sales, and I invest in real estate myself, and we'll go over some of that stuff. And what we just love is data analytics. We love statistics. My degree is in finance. I just could geek out on Excel all day long. And so that's some what we're gonna do today. So overall, what's the overview of what we're trying to cover today? So first, we're going to start talking about starting with the end goal in mind. Then we're going to go over some common misconceptions. Third, we'll actually run and learn how to run the numbers and kind of give you kind of like an agent's perspective and an investor's perspective. Then go into estimating repairs. What does that look like? And overall, how does analyzing the deal look differently now that COVID-19 is going on? All right. So to start off, starting with the end goal in mind. So with all of my investors, what we do is we go over first, what is your game plan and getting into investing, right? Then that could be anything from buying and holding a property to get that passive income, to fixing and flipping because you want to grow your capital, or the BRRRR method, which is the buy, the rehab, the refinance, and repeat. Or are we looking into creative financing like subject twos, owner financing, or house hacking? So you want to first figure out what is that perspective, right? What is, if you could get one deal alone, and that ideal, what does that look like? Then next, going into what does the property actually look like? Is it a single family, a duplex, a triplex, all the way to mobile home parks or commercial property, right? And then you go into what is important to you financially. And we'll go over to some of these numbers. So when you find a deal, say you're looking for a duplex and then you get a duplex, how do you know it financially makes the right deal for you? So you could look at different things like debt coverage ratio, the cash on cash return, your cap rate, the after repair value, the net operating income expense ratio. I'm just running down the numbers and we'll go further from there. And then lastly, where is this property located and what kind of class of property are you looking for? Are you looking to do the white collar, the people who can purchase at the highest amount in this area? So for me, that's things above $300,000, right? Or is it the A class, meaning you're talking about student housing and the parents are paying and you're paying $650 a bedroom? Or is it B class? It's the blue collar. It's the average middle where the average person in Northwest Arkansas can buy, and that's a rent of around $1,400 a month. And then the C class is your minimum wage, your Walmart workers, your people that work at Dollar General. That's your C class. D stands for drugs. Are you okay with drugs? You know, oftentimes the crappier the neighborhood, the crappier the property, the better return on investment because you're dealing with a higher risk, okay? So you really want to focus first before analyzing a deal, figure out what does that property look like? Is it just imagine it in your head. What are we looking at, okay? So, and I have I don't know if I can, let me see if I can show the chat. Or Austin, if you don't mind, can you go ahead? There is a form. If you can drop a link or file into the comment section. It is the investor net sheet or the investor lead sheet. And this is kind of like what I fill out when an investor comes and talks with me and says, hey, Ryan, I want to invest in real estate. Then I would need to gather all this information. This is what you really want to get for yourself, right? And that, what I just showed on that last screen gives you that. Now, next, going into where to get the data, okay? So first, you're going to want to compare and analyze your deal based off of comparable sales, all right? So before I became a real estate agent, I was an investor first. And how I decided to do this is I partnered with a local real estate agent. I was like, hey, man, I just need good comps. I need good data. That way, when I'm going to buy this wholesale deal or I'm fixing and flipping this deal, I know what the numbers are. And so he gave that to me for free because I offered something to him in return, and that was referrals. So anytime I was interacting with deals out there when I was investing and there was someone I could not help and they just needed to go the traditional route and use a local real estate agent, then I would refer to this guy. So we kind of had like this relationship going on. You can also find the data if you're an agent yourself or you've got that agent. They can find comparables through the multiple listing service, the MLS, which I'll refer to often. And then afterwards, you can do public records on Netro Online. Now I just want to show you, let me see if I can do that real quick. So if you go to Netro Online, why I send you here, both Washington and Benton County have their own tax records or county datas, but this Netro Online website actually allows you to pull any website or any county website or data that you want to pull. So you can go to public records online and then oh, not Missouri, Arkansas. Aye. We want to go to Arkansas, right? There we go. And say I want to go to Washington County, right? Well, and then it gives you all these websites that you can click on and gather data for, which this was not the right one. Yeah, so you can go into here, you can type in, let's see here, Wikitype 1512 Dawn, and then you can pull that information up, view the data, who owns it, what's that mailing address, pull in the deed, what did they purchase it for previously, and then you can even look at what the actual square foot says it is, all that good information. And that's all from Netro Online, which can get you there, okay? Now, let's go back. All right. So, can everybody still hear me? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Thumbs up. All right, good. Okay. So now, where do you find rental data? You, again, can find it from your local real estate agent, a multiple listing service. You can also go to rentometer.com. They have a free version for so long, and then it switches. But it basically gives you the rent for the area and for the bedroom and stuff. Austin, is this a no or a yes?
Yeah, I'm trying to get this investor lead sheet up.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
I can do it afterwards if that works out. Okay. So then other investors. So to be honest with you, this is the best research and the best resource that I have found. Being a part of REI NWA gives you a good position, right? So oftentimes when you're analyzing, like for me, multifamily duplexes, and I want to know what the rent rate is, because how I analyze a multifamily is based on the cash flow I can get. And so when I do that, I want to make sure I know what I can get it rented for. And I want to know what I can rent it for after I renovate it, right? And so oftentimes, like for example, there was a guy buying a duplex in East Springdale, and Charlie Adams knows so much. So I call Charlie Adams and I say, hey, what's a 3.2 rent for that you've got going on? And he's like $995. And I'm like, okay, great. And then my investor got to be able to purchase that deal at what the right rent rate was, rented it out, and it's all good. And oftentimes I see, so when I pull the data on the MLS for rentals in the previous time frame, we've actually seen that all of our investors are doing $150 to $250 more in rent than the property managers that are listing it within the MLS, okay? Now, the next, number 5, is the Skyline report. And Austin, you have that. So if you're able to upload that file, the Skyline
Yeah, I'll be able
report
to.
that just, let me see if I can.
We're kind of losing you.
Oh, I can pull up the chat. There you go. You got it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, good. Okay. So Skyline report, great data. It gives you the average, the median for the area based on the bedroom or based on your city. It also gives you vacancy rates, great information there. And there's also other things that you can go on the global or national data. So the Federal Reserve has great public data on there. The Bureau of Labor of Statistics has great data on there as well. Okay, now I want to go into common misconceptions. First off is people, which we'll go into further, people think price per foot is everything, and it is not, especially when you talk about single family residential houses. And we'll go into that later more. The second is people think if it's listed at this price, then it's worth that much. To be honest with you, I'm going to be very honest with you. I would honestly say 80% of the real estate agents out there have no clue how to properly analyze whether a deal what a price should be listed for or not. And oftentimes as well, that agent, you know, can't accurately share that with the seller. And so say, hey, seller, you think your property is $1 million, but it's only 1,500 square feet. It's not worth $1 million, right? And so they just want to list the property. And here's another bad thing. A lot of times agents will list properties just so they can get the buyers to call on their sign. And then they get that buyer and then get to sell that buyer a house. Maybe not the house that's listed, but they'll sell some other house, right? So always do your research. Never in your mind, never start wherever the list price is. That's never the right way to go. And then the third misconception that I see is everyone else is buying at this price, so this must be the right price. I've had investors, one of the investors may be in this group, but I have investors all the time. All we do is we analyze the deal. As soon as it comes on market, we know the way we want to structure the offer, and then we just send the offer out, right? We don't care what the list price is. We just do whatever price makes sense to us. Yes, we get rejected hundreds of times, but that's okay. At some point, someone's going to say yes, or the market's going to change, and then they're going to start saying yes. So we always focus on the metrics that we care. What does that deal look like that we want to buy? And then we run after that, okay? All right. Now, before we go in, we're going to analyze some of these deals, okay? And so before we do that, what causes a property not to sell, okay? Well, it's either price, marketing, or condition. It's one of those three. And it typically, the price and the condition need to match together, because when you're analyzing whether this property is worth this much or not, you have to focus on what are those conditions comparable, right? So does this one house have granite countertops versus this other one has Formica countertops, right? And so the condition of the property makes a big difference. Marketing also makes a big difference. If a house is listed with one picture, it's probably going to sell for a way lot less than someone putting it out for professional photos. That's the same thing with listing it for sell by owner versus listing it with an agent, right? So you can't compare how one marketing does versus another marketing. Usually you want to bring it together. Okay, so when you're running, and this is going into like more of the agency side of things and how I analyze deals and how we run the numbers, okay? But I will show you how you can do it as well. So first, you run what's called a comparative market analysis. Again, this is taking, your house or duplex or apartment complex and looking at other comparable like property in the area and see what they sold for, and that's what this one should be valued at. It's only what a buyer and a seller are willing to come together on in order to purchase, okay? How are we doing on audio and video? Good? Okay, thank you. All right, continuing on. First, search. How do you search? What is the parameters? How do you compare what is what? Well, I'm going to be honest with you. It's more of an art form than a science. That means it's not as much as this is this or whatnot. It's actually kind of an art form. You have to move or be agile depending on each situation, right? So if it's in a neighborhood, it's going to be super easy because all of them are 20% the same in square footage and whatnot. But what if it's that 6.5 acre house, 2,000 square feet out in West Fork? How are you going to analyze that, right? So here's we go by, my team goes by some rules of thumbs. And we say, first off, location is most important. So we first try to stay within that neighborhood. And if we can't stay within a neighborhood or it doesn't have a neighborhood, then we know that appraisers are going to focus only 3 miles out from that location, okay? So then after that, size, bedrooms, bathrooms, we want to make sure that the square footage is 20% the same, right? Because in a neighborhood, the smaller the house, the more the price per square foot it should sell for, right? But it's not going to sell for the highest overall sell price for that neighborhood. But the biggest house in that neighborhood is going to sell for the highest sell price, but probably not the highest price per square foot. Okay, then age. Age makes a big difference. And I have some kind of rules of thumb. 1978, that is the year in which lead-based paint stopped doing. If you take the 70s, we'll say, and go into the 60s, you're seeing galvanized plumbing. You see two-pronged outlets without grounds. You're seeing lead-based paint. You're seeing asbestos insulation. There's problems with those older houses that aren't present in the newer houses. And then I just put 1999 because there is a big difference between the style of houses when you go from 1978, which was more of a ranch style house, to a contemporary in 1999. 2007 is because that's when the crash happened, right? So I will get a hint here. 2005 to 2007, I always worry about on the physical condition because there were so many crazy builders out there. If you had a hammer, you could call yourself a builder and you go build a house, and some of these builders went to jail with how bad these properties were. And then 2018, 2019, just to cut out the new construction, okay? Now, my team is always focused on when we're comparing and analyzing a deal, we always want 3 to 5 sold data. Okay. Now, what is the data we're actually looking at? We're looking at active. This is our competition. Who are we competing with? Okay. Pending, those are the deals that they were priced right, that they did get a contract. All right. Sold data, that's how much they actually sold for. That's where the proof is in the pudding. We see what it listed for and what it sold for. And then the fourth thing is called absorption rate. This is basically like if you worked at Walmart in the milk department and you had 10 milks and you right now, because of COVID-19, well, let's do toilet paper. All right. We have 10 rolls of toilet paper. Okay. We know we sell about 10 rolls a week. Well, then if the truck doesn't have toilet paper on it and the semi truck can't get to our store, then how much of inventory do we have? We only have 1 week's worth of inventory. And that's what absorption rate is. If no other houses came on the market, then what would a property actually sell, or how long until all the properties are gone, right? Okay, so we're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna look through these comments real quick. Okay, buy and hold, Burr. I love it. Buy and hold,
Yep.
Burr. Okay, cool. Sounds really good. Okay, we'll focus on that. Before we do that, Austin, can you throw in, or maybe let me see if I can. I want to go ahead. I am throwing into you what I call the buyer deal analysis. Okay, and so this is going to be. Let me pull this up, or are you? If you're ready, Austin, you can throw it in.
It's on its way. Uh-oh.
Sorry.
Should be on its way in. Let's see here.
Awesome. Buyer
Work disc-
deal analysis.
It's not uploading. I don't know why.
Okay. We'll upload it as we go. I'll go over it real quick, and we'll run the numbers real quick
I'll try
to
save it
see
as
what's
a-
going on. Okay. All right. So first off, can you see the Excel file? Right. Buyer deal analysis at the top here. Give me a thumbs up. Cool. All right. Good. Okay. Just making sure. All right. So what this is doing, so when I run numbers, all the gray boxes are the data I have to grab, right? I want to figure out this data. So I pull this data from the county records. And then when I run the numbers, what you're going to see is first off, what most agents look at is this document
Looks like we're losing you, Ryan.
here.
Ryan?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you now.
Okay, I got you on my phone. But just a document that shows what was all right. Okay, can you?
I can
Can
share it
hear
on
me?
the screen.
Here.
Look, what I'll do is share my screen.
Hey, can you hear me on this one?
Yes.
Okay.
Does that help for everybody? I've got the buyer deal analysis up.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So in this, I need to get the echo out. Okay. So in this, what we're looking at, okay, first off, I want us to look on the right-hand side where you see the market analysis. So the price based on price per square foot, okay? So in that, hold on. You guys hear my echo? Mute. Okay. All right, so in this, what you're seeing is two different ways in which we analyze it, right? So we're looking at it at an overall price per square foot, and relative to what that price is. So if you look on the gray boxes, these are the prices that I put in from the market analysis. And then at the price based on overall sell price, you can see what did the actual ceiling, what is the ceiling of that neighborhood versus what is the lowest it sold for just based on overall sell price. And why this is important is because we're wanting to marry the two. Most often people just think of price per foot, and that's not the case. Sometimes the best situation is taking that little bitty house, and you can, if you're analyzing a little bitty house and you notice that all the other houses that you're comparing to are bigger in square footage, you can push that price per square foot even higher, okay? And then if you've got the biggest house in the neighborhood, it would do you wrong if you focus on just the price per square foot, and you probably will not overall sell the house, right? Okay, if you're like flipping it. Austin, can you click on the comparable link notes? That one.
This one?
Yeah. And it'll bring up a browser. So what I do and what you're looking at is, again, we're taking the value of the property. What do we think it actually can sell for? And we're comparing it to the conditional value, right? Here, so maybe, did you click on the link and it's not coming up though, is it?
I don't know if I know which link you're talking about here.
Okay.
Comparable deal analysis.
Here, let's see if,
Or
here, can I share my screen? Is
yeah,
that okay?
there you go.
Now we're working. Sorry. Okay, so I click on this compare link, and
Looks like we're losing you again.
what you're doing is you're taking her.
Sorry,
Can you
guys.
hear me okay?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Man, I don't know why, but
Your screen is
okay, so
sharing now.
okay, so
Well, that's good.
the screen sharing now?
Yeah, yeah, we see some houses that are up right now.
Awesome. So here's your 1205 Spring Spree. The screen sharing now. So here's your 1205, and look at what the comparable is. Okay, what condition is it in? And we run through, look at the pictures. Okay, Formica, you've got linoleum. And then if you look at this sold data, I want to go down to this one. I actually sold this one. This is an investor who flipped. And you can see granite countertops. They redid everything on the inside, repainted, did new flooring, LVP, all of it, right? So we sold it for $145,350. In fact, an appraiser pushed us down on price, right? And then they're trying to sell their property for $150. It doesn't make sense, right? And so what you're trying to do is compare that condition with the overall sell price, right? So when I'm analyzing this, I'm like, man, and I'm going through these, I'm like, man, this property here is in worse condition than most of these other ones. So I would actually analyze this deal and put it on the lower end, on this lower between average and low. And that if I were to make an offer on the property, right, I would make an offer based off of this average and low area here. So 136 to 140 is the highest I would offer on that property. All right, so we
Ryan, real
did
quick.
that.
Ron, real quick, just to answer Tiffany's question here, she asked, do you only evaluate homes that are already on the MLS, or do you cold call homes that you're interested in?
Do I personally cold call homes that I'm interested in?
Right. Or do
Is that
you,
the question?
are your deals mostly centered around the ones that are already on the MLS?
No. So good question.
Yeah.
My team actually calls off-market sellers all the time. I'm putting this one away. We call off-market sellers all the time, trying to find those off-market deals, because lately in this current market, well, previously before this current market, it's been really hard. So most of the deals that we actually can find for our investors are off-market deals. Now, if it's on market, we're just going to send crazy amounts of offers. And if we don't get them, we don't get them, right? But really, you should have some kind of deal funnel where you're bringing in the deals, right? So I'm not necessarily talking about how do we find those deals. I'm more talking about, okay, once we've got a deal, is it a deal, right? Are we analyzing it the right way? Does that make sense?
It
Yeah.
does.
Okay. Thank you for the question, Tiffany. Okay, going on, let's go into multifamily residence. So Austin, if you can also upload the buy and hold analysis template, okay? Oh, sorry. I'm actually going to go take one step back because this is important for investors. And that is on this buyer deal analysis when you have it, okay?
Hey, Ryan,
One
real
thing,
quick, just so you know, the Excel sheets, the network connector just doesn't, the path for that file, those aren't working for me. So
okay.
those are the,
You know what I'll have is at the very end, what we'll do is I have a Google form. You can put your name, your number, your email, and then I will just email you everything that you're seeing today, the presentation, the Excel files, everything, okay? Now, I do want you to know that you can use Bigger Pockets has some great calculators. In fact, I actually reverse engineered a lot of these off of the Bigger Pockets and then changed things to what I desire and what I want, right? And there's a lot of free ones you can download anywhere, okay? So going back into this buyer deal analysis here, okay? So I put this data in here of what did the seller purchase it for, how much do they still owe on the property. All of that is public record. And then over here, you can see that the seller will break even if they just get an offer for $22,000, okay? And a seller will get a check for this current deal at $113,000. So if you're sitting in with a seller and you're like, hey, if it's an off-market seller and they're like, man, for them, they really don't care. I mean, any seller's this way. They don't really care what the overall sell price is. They care what the money in the pocket is, okay? So how do you figure that out? Well, you can figure that when you plug in all the numbers in the gray boxes, it will literally tell you what it would be. You can say, hey, you're roughly going to – now, mind you, obviously always preface this in well, I don't know if there's any other liens on the property or whatnot, but it looks like if everything is normal, we should be able to get you a check for $113,843 based off the current deal. Does that make sense? So that is the buyer deal analysis. And then this is so you can help in negotiating with your sellers, okay? And then these are the breakdowns for the cost of a buyer and the cost as a seller, okay? If you ever have questions, you can email me or call me or text me, and I will be able to answer any of this on these formulas. Okay, now let's go into buy and hold analysis, okay? So this is an actual Actually, maybe I can click on this and show you. Oh, wait, I need. So this is actually a deal that got off.
Hey Ryan, can you try your phone again? Looks like you're breaking up on us.
Yeah. Okay, it looks like for some reason that anytime I try to open a link on Chrome, it just throws it off. To open a link on Chrome, it just throws it. Okay, you can't hear me. That's okay. All right. Okay. Austin, can you hear me? Deal I actually bought from. So this is a deal I actually bought from Henry and Dustin, and so. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, good. Awesome. So.
Well, now we're struggling to hear you.
I bought from Henry and Dustin, and I bought. And they bought it for, and I bought it for $171,000, and they paid like $2,000 of my closing costs. All right. So in analyzing this deal, I did what's called the Burr method. But what was really cool is in buying it. So if you know me, I love house hacking, which means I always live in one side of a duplex and I rent out the other side. So I don't know how many years it's been, but I haven't paid for where I live for that I don't have. So you know where I live now. There you go. Right. So I bought this duplex and it was in just normal condition. It hasn't been touched. They didn't do anything to it. I wish I could show. I don't have after repair or after pictures, but this is what I bought. And so how did I analyze the deal when I did it, right? So first off, again, like any of my Excel files, I fill in the gray boxes, right? So I knew that I'm buying it for 171. After repair value, I did for 220,000, or what's called the cap rate. And you want to know that the average cap rate for this area is actually roughly 5.5%. I put to 6 now because the market is starting to shift. Okay. So then I put in all my loan information. How much did I put down? What was my interest rate? How much did the lender charge me? All of that kind of stuff. And then I put in what the current rent rate was. I put in there what I projected the rent rate could be. Okay. And then you put in everything. And this is literally, I stole all of this from Bigger Pockets. Okay. Literally just threw it all in here. And so then you go into your income, your expenses, the variable expenses. Now I'm going to speak a little bit on the variable expenses, okay? So first is vacancy. That's the highest cost that you have as a buy and hold investor, okay? Because it's an opportunity cost. And so when one person goes vacant, you want to make sure you're not analyzing a deal because you don't have it fully, all your revenue coming in, right? And on the Skyline report, which you will get, it will give you what is the average vacancy rate, okay? So the average vacancy rate for Springdale is 1%, and for Fayetteville, it's like 3.5 to 4%. Now that may be changing as the market is changing, but because the Skyline report couldn't pull that data, obviously it's the lag data, right? And then I flipped this property, right? So I put in granite countertops. I did LVP floor, tile in the wet areas, everything, right? Gutters. We closed in the garage and made a third bedroom because oftentimes what you'll see in this deal is you oftentimes cannot find the deal on the market. You only can find it off market, or you have to make the deal happen, okay? So, and you'll see what that looks like. Now, even though we completely flipped it. I still want to count in repairs and maintenance. Here's what people often go wrong on, and I will show you what they go wrong on. I'll click on the BP tab here, and this is BP, Bigger Pockets. So if you look at this tab, what you'll see is my success overall income would be $2,800, right? Now, the gross cash flow that I actually will get will be $1,466. Often mistake that I see investors make is like, yeah, we just want, $100 to $200 a door above what our mortgage is, right? And they're not counting in the other expenses that come to be. So the HVAC goes out, and it literally wipes out all the income that they would have made for the past 2 years. And then they're like, crap, this isn't a good deal I'm getting now, right? And then they sell the property, and then they lose money that way as well. So the actual cash flow that I'm predicting on this property is just $850 a month. So let's go back to questions. Okay, so what I do when I analyze a deal is I want to make sure that I am counting in repairs, I'm counting in capital expenditures. So repairs and maintenance are the things that, like, when the tenant moves out or, garbage disposal breaks, so we're replacing that. Capital expenditures are going to be like the roof, the water heater, the HVAC system. I'm saving money. If I'm not spending it this month, I'm taking that $224 and saving it in a savings account, okay? And then I manage my own stuff, but I still put in property management because I'm looking at this with the end in mind, right? Why am I in a buy and hold situation? Because I want to retire early and I don't want to work and I don't want to fix these properties for the rest of my life. So I want to make sure I account for property management in there, okay? A thing that I see often, right, is they'll run the numbers, they'll put the numbers in here, and then they'll go to like financial ratios, or they'll run the deal. Say your thing is cash on cash return, and then you look at the cash on cash return and you're like, the numbers don't make sense. Well, I can go ahead and get rid of property management because I'm going to manage it myself. Or they'll say, well, actually, I think we can get higher rent rates, right? Or the repairs and maintenance, yeah, it's not going to be that much. And then they're trying to fit this one deal into their metrics, right? And you shouldn't do that. That's why I say at the beginning, have the end in mind. What is your goal, right? So figure out what your goal is and don't compromise on those metrics, and just put in offers based off of what your metrics are, okay? So property management, unexpected expense. This is just hey, I want to make sure there's some kind of margin, so I'm going to put unexpected expense. And all of these are based off of percentages of what the total gross monthly rent is. Now, some people ask me, like, hey, Ryan, well, you're not making $2,800. You're living on one side. So that's not what it is. Yes, that's true. But at some point, I'm going to move out of this duplex, and I'm going to make sure that I'm still making the money that I want to make. I want to make sure that it makes money regardless of whether I live there or I don't, okay? Now, there's some future assumptions. I'm not going to go into much of that, but I literally keep these all the same, okay? Now, let's go into worst case, best case scenario. And what is this? This is called a profit and loss statement. And what you're looking at is 3 scenarios: the worst case scenario, the current case, and the best case scenario, okay? So the current case is what I bought it at, right? So what I actually bought it at, the valuation, if I based it on the cap rate, was $120,000. So it's like, what, Ryan, you overspent by $50,000, right? But what I really tried to do is make the deal happen, make the deal work. Now, I can come back here, and after repairs, what do I think I can conservatively rent for? Not $12,000, I wish. Let's do $1,200. And then that will tell me what I'm running the numbers at, right? But what we're going to do is we're going to do what the current value was, and I'm going to bring down it being what I conservatively think it is. So when I conservatively think it is, we're going back to the worst case, current case, and best case scenario. So the worst case scenario is if it's renting at what it is right now, and say the market goes crazy and I have to drop rent, and the rent now goes to, I can only rent this out for $553. Well, what does it look like? So you take your income, your gross income, which is right here. It goes on a monthly basis here and an annual basis here. And then you take your total operating expenses. And notice you have your CapEx, your property management, your vacancy. Are those expenses that you're incurring every month? No, it's not. But you're going to want to dollar cost average it over the 12 months. And that's what you're getting here, right? You're expecting that the furnace and the HVAC is going to go out. So you're saving what's a $5,000 expense. You're saving $200 a month to make sure that you're going to have enough money for when that gets replaced, okay? Now, you take your income, you minus your expenses, you get your net operating income. So this is before the debt service. So this is before I actually have to pay my monthly or my monthly mortgage or whatnot. So, and then you get your overall cash flow after that. Now, what's the difference between a single family house and analyzing a deal and a multifamily house and analyzing that deal? The biggest thing is multifamily is typically on the cash flow. This is particularly so when you're talking about 5 units and more. What we're seeing lately, if you've been keeping up with the market, any duplex listed on the market is way overpriced, right? And the reason why is because people are house hacking these duplexes. They're living in one side and they're like, hey, I can get someone to rent the other side, and then my rent is only $300 a month. And if that's your goal, that's totally great, right? But if that's not your goal, then okay, let's dial it back. What is the numbers, right? So then this valuation takes that cap rate for the average cap rate for the area and says, okay, what is the overall valuation of this property? What is it worth? And then what is the equity change in position based off of doing that? So when you're like doing the Burr method, right? What you're wanting to see is when I put, so for this one, I'm putting $40,000 in. When I put $40,000 in, then what does the outcome look like, right? Now, why did I house hack this duplex? I house hacked this duplex because the lender paid for my remodel. All I had to do was come up with the down payment, and then they took care of the remodel, right? Okay, now let's go to financial ratios, okay? So here is my standards. When I say, hey, analyze your metrics, what makes an ideal goal, okay? This is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at what is the expense load, cash on cash return, all of these numbers. My big one that I care about more than anything is cash on cash return, right? I really don't care about expense load. I don't care about the pro forma cap rate or the purchase cap rate. I care about the cash on cash return. Now, when these don't match up, they turn red. And so when I analyze this deal, so let's go back to Ryan Blackstone. He's looking to purchase this deal. We're sitting at Jimmy's Egg. It's Henry and Dustin and I, and they're selling me this duplex, right? Well, and I'm analyzing the deal, and I'm like, okay, does it make sense, right? Well, in the current condition, you know, it doesn't look like it's making sense. But if I close in that garage, I can get that extra income. Well, then it makes sense, right? If I do the work and I can figure out what my overall cash position is, then it's making me a 20% return on investment on my conservative number of $1,200 a month in rent, which Henry just rented his out. He just finished the remodel of his and did this exact same thing and rented his out for $1,200 a month. Now, let's go into the BP model. By the way, when you get these Excel files, all of them should have a YouTube video up at the top, which will help you analyze or run the numbers as well. So if I'm going too fast, just know you have this link as well as my number. Okay. BP model, financial ratios, BP model. Okay, going into this is where you're looking at your monthly cash flow. What is it you're making? What is you're actually collecting? So notice I'm basically putting half of the money that I collect and I'm putting it into a savings account, basically, okay? Now, there are some things that we'll go into, like rules of thumb, like the 50% rule or the 1% rule, and we'll go into that more. But this is like analyzing a deal in depth, right? And whenever I look at the property, you're looking at the rental history, the market analysis. You know, you can pull the tax records. I want to look at that. And I want to look at the other comparables that sold in the area. So the other comparables said that this was worth $200,000. Now, funny, okay, those who've been in the market, my appraiser said that the after repair value, after I was going to do this property and I was going to make $2,400 a month in rent, said that my property was only worth $200,000. Okay. Now, again, an appraiser, it's one person's opinion of what the value is. If I marketed a duplex on the MLS for $200,000 and it was bringing in $2,400 a month, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get multiple offers on that property, right? So sometimes the appraiser is not analyzing the deal like you would analyze the deal, okay? So just check your numbers that way. Any questions on multifamily, analyzing the deal multifamily way? Okay, we'll continue. I can't see the chat right now. So if
We're good on the chat. No current questions. Are there any? Please put in the chat if everyone has it down there. If you've looked at it, are there any pertinent questions that you want to ask? Whether it's about all of this, there's also a couple other ways that after this is over, we can review some of the different things that Ryan went through.
Perfect. Okay. Let's continue on. I just want to give you a snippet of what the Skyline report looks like, right? So they'll have data like this where it says the 2-bedroom vacancy rates, and you can see Bentonville, Fayetteville, Rogers, Springdale, Siloam Springs. Average should be right around 10%. So this is how often is this property actually vacant? Well, typically 10% should be the case, but you can see that it's trending way below. So what does that mean? That means property values should go up. Your revenue should go up, right? And then what I also love is I love running the numbers based off of, like, let's see here, a 3-bedroom should get me around $965 on average per month, right? And then what do I think? Is my property, is my rental property better than average on the condition or worse than average on the condition? And you can kind of analyze, okay, does this make good sense or not? Okay, continuing on. Fix and flip. I won't get too far into this, but when you fix and flip, okay, what I want you to look at is I want you to compare the condition of what you will do it as, okay? So with, like, some of my investors will just say, like Henry and Dustin, right? I know exactly what they're going to do when they flip a property, right? Subway tile, granite countertops. You know, Henry loves the diamond-shaped lights, and so I know what he's looking at, right? So I take that condition and then I run a market analysis based off of what it will look like, right? And then that's where you get your after repair value. Now, what's hard about an after repair value is you're taking data that's been from today's date to a year behind, and you're saying this is what the price is in 6 months or 4 months or however long it takes you to flip that property. So what I want you to look at is in a booming market, right? We can take that sold data and say, okay, we'll analyze and purchase the deal based off this sold data, right? But when the market's declining, and say you analyze the after repair value of the deal, and now you're getting ready to sell it, but the market's declining, right? How far has the market declined? And now you put it on the market, your ARV has changed. Your after repair value has changed. And are you losing your profit from there, right? So if you were on the Saturday afternoon appointment or call, what I was saying was you want to build in that margin, right? We don't know with COVID-19 how the market's changing. Right now, we know it's still a really crazy hot market, okay? But at some point, it will start declining, and we don't want to be caught with the flip that we have and we've analyzed it 6 months ago, right? And then we've lost all of our profit margins. So oftentimes there's rules of thumb. Well, the 30%, let's go first with the 30% rule. Oftentimes so you'll do a fix and flip, and in that fix and flip, you'll say, okay, 30%, I want 30% profit margin, and then of the ARV. So the ARV is 150. Then we're going to do 30% off that. So we'll say it's 120. I don't know what it is. We'll say 115, 120. And then my repairs are going to cost me $15,000. So now we're at $100,000. Okay. So I'm going to purchase a house for $100,000. Okay. So what I want you to do is when you're analyzing a deal and you've worked out my end goal in mind is this, right? You want to go in depth like these, but really when you're looking for deals, sometimes you need these, what we call rules of thumb to make quick decisions, right? So for me, the 1% rule, right? I analyze, 15 to 20 deals, a day to a week, right? And when I do that, if I'm doing it for myself with my investors, I do it for them whenever, right? But whenever they say, hey, Ryan, do this, and then I'll do it, okay? But if I'm analyzing a deal for myself, am I going to analyze all of the duplexes that hit the market? Yeah, probably not, unless it's an area I want it to be in or it's close to the rule of thumb that I want, which is 1%. So, for example, there's a duplex in Rogers, and that duplex is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, making $1,400 a month, selling for $280,000. Well, if I use the 1% rule, I should be making $2,800 on that 2-bedroom, 1-bath duplex in Rogers. Do I really think I can get what's that? 1,000, 2,800. Do I really think I can get $1,600 a month on that duplex? I don't think so. So I'm not going to analyze that deal. Okay. Go do my kids and birthday stuff. Good job on you, Sloan. I will send it to you. Okay. Now, we talked about the 1% rule. We talked about the 30% rule. Some people even say the 50% expense rule, right? So if you're analyzing a buy and hold deal, right? And you're looking, man, what do I really think my cash flow is? Oftentimes what I can do is I will say, okay, it's $200,000, right? And I know I can get $2,000 a month in it. Well, on average, national average, your expense is going to be anywhere between 40 to 50% of your monthly income. So then I could say, okay, I'm actually only getting $1,000 a month in cash flow minus the debt service. So I got $1,000 a month, and it's going to cost me $1,000 a month in my monthly mortgage, right? Well, then I'm making no cash flow on a $200,000 property, making me $2,000, right? So you can do simple rules of thumb or math that makes sense to you when you're analyzing a deal. Like, does this deal even make sense for me to analyze or not, right? That's what a rule of thumb does for you. But always go in depth, and you can go in depth after you've got it under contract. Oftentimes, my investors, we have so many ways we put in the contract to get out of the deal, right? So analyze it in depth later. I always say, especially if it's on the market, if it's just an off-market deal, you've got a little bit more time. But if it's on the market, you typically don't have much time. So do a rule of thumb, get it under contract. If it's listed, the seller's in control. If you get it under contract, you as the buyer become in control, right? That seller can't go sell it to someone else, even if they're saying, I'll buy it for, $400,000 more money, until you have exhausted all your options and all your limitations on that deal, okay? Now, where is the market heading to with COVID-19, right? So again, like we said, when I analyze a deal, I am going to analyze the deal more conservatively. If I'm talking about flipping a property, instead of 30% profit margin, I'm going to work on 50% profit margin. Because if the market drops by 20%, then I'm gonna be safe, right? If I'm looking at a buy and hold analysis and I'm looking at the rents in the past, you know what? There are higher rents here, but I'm gonna go off the average, because I know that if the market declines, typically rent is like sell prices decline. Typically rents aren't gonna decline, right? But they may stabilize and stay the same. So let me base my analysis off the average, right? So that's what I would do if I am thinking about where the market is heading. Now, again, the thought process is, okay, well, what if the market keeps going up? Okay, we just got a better deal, or maybe we'll go revisit that deal and purchase it afterwards if we think the market's going up. But if the market goes down and we're caught analyzing the deal with too risky of a margin, then we may miss out on a bigger opportunity come later down the road. Okay? Now, that is the end of my PowerPoint. We are kind of we're past due, but I don't know actually when we started. So I do want to open it up for any questions. And then I am going to put this link here into the comments. If you want all of this stuff, I will send it to you via email. Just give me your stuff. You can take that link. You can put your name, email, and phone number, and I will go ahead. It will give me your email, and I will shoot you these documents. That buy and hold analysis, the buyer deal analysis. We didn't go into this, but the flip deal analysis, my investor lead sheet to help you with your mind, and then the Skyline report and all the information that provides. Cool. Any questions?
So I'm going to get a little crazy with this, and I'm going to unmute everybody.
Woo.
I know. Hold your pants. So
I'm not wearing any.
We saw you run away from the screen.
Yeah.
So if everyone could please, if I unmute everyone, let's try our best not to talk over everybody. I will select someone to talk, to ask a question, and then we'll want Ryan to provide that answer. Ready, set, go.
I say, well, I'm going to, if I'm going to pay for the photography, the video, if I need to get a stager to come in and give an opinion, I'll do that.
Hey, mute Collie. He's on the phone.
Yeah, got that one. Okay.
Making a deal happen.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he? Someone's getting a photograph done.
So Ryan, this is your proprietary deal analysis. Have you done this based on Bigger Pockets? But is this something you're sharing, or is it just something you use for yourself?
Yeah, this is what I give away for free to all the investors I work with, and it's just literally something I created. But I just I started with the Bigger Pockets and how they analyze. And basically, to be honest with you, before on Bigger Pockets, you could analyze 10 free deals, right? Before you had to pay their subscription. So I took a deal and I analyzed it 10 different ways and took those numbers, and then I tried to run everything on and create my own Excel file, and I tweaked the formulas until I got the exact same results that they did. And then I went above further. So oftentimes I get investors give me how they analyze a deal. So they give me their Excel spreadsheet, and I'm like, oh man, I love that. Let me add that into mine. And so that's where you get what you're getting. So when I'm giving this away, you use it forever, whenever, however long. The only thing I say is there is a disclaimer in there that says, hey, you're analyzing this kind of like at your own risk, right? So I don't know if you're going to accidentally change a formula or something. So don't sue me if the deal doesn't work out or you something changed in the formulas. But this is what I use to analyze my own deals.
Okay. So what I was looking for is after you go through all of those numbers and you get to the bottom line and you see how much you're going to be making each month, what I was looking for is something where I could change that monthly number and all of the other stuff would shift.
All right. Good question. Can I show you the trick to that?
Oh, yeah.
Because that is what I love. So let me say I'm buying this for $220. Let's see here. Okay, cool. So if you notice that now the projected cash on cash return is lower than 12%, which is where I want it to be. So what I will do is I will go up here and hit data, and I will hit what if analysis, and I will hit goal seek, okay? So in this, what it allows me to do is I'm setting a certain cell, which is this cell, E4. What do I want that value to be? Well, I want that value to be 12% or 0.12 in decimal form, right? And then what cell do I want to change so that it makes this cell 12%? Well, it's obviously the sell price. That's the only thing I really can change. Yeah. So I'm going to then go to questions. I'm going to click on that purchase price, and then I'm going to hit OK. Then it runs its crazy numbers.
That's what I
hit OK. So it gives me at 11.97%. And it says, OK, you can't spend more than $199,221 on the sell price for this property. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Where is that number?
Right now, it's the sell price. You see how the sell price changed?
Got it. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Exciting.
Yeah.
And Claudia, it's Haya. Claudia asked a question. I don't know if it got answered before I hopped on. Where do you find, or how can you find what is left owing on the seller's mortgage?
Good question. So you find that in the tax records. Let me just show you how I do it on the MLS, and then I'll see if I can do it on the overall, like on the Netro Online, so you guys can grab it too. So, you know my password. Oh no, I'm just kidding. Okay, let me. Okay, so this is the MLS, and so I have access. I can go to the tax records, and well, actually, let me do it this way. I can get all the public data. It gets imported into our system. So let me just use the one I own. which is this one. So if you got a local real estate agent, I can go ahead and I can click on history, and it will say what they purchased it for and at what sales date, and then it tells what mortgage it is and what amount. Now, mind you, the scary thing is this, and this is what I want you to understand, is when my analysis runs its numbers, it's basing it off of them just making the minimum payment, and they took a 30-year mortgage fixed rate out at the average loan amount of like 3.75, okay? And so then it runs the numbers and say, okay, if they were paying their minimum payment, then this is what their payoff is going to be, right? Now, if they made extra payments per month, it doesn't calculate that. So I still ask every person that I talk to, I have 3 numbers. Well, this is like if I'm listing it. I have 3 numbers I want them to tell me. I want them to tell me how much they want to list the property for. I have them tell me what their payoff is. If they don't know their payoff, I run the calculator, right? And then I also want them to tell me what do they want to make out of this deal, right? If they're like, hey, I just want to cut bait, I want break even, 0 money, then you can figure that out. What is that? What is that amount? And you can analyze the deal off of that. Now, let's go for if you don't have a real estate person, if you hit the if you hit the realist tax, you guys don't have access to that either. Okay, so let me go ahead and I'm in this. I will say Washington County gives a lot more free data than Benton County. Benton County you actually have to pay for, or you partner with someone who has access or pays for, and you get that data from there. So if you're in the tax records, you can then go here and see what the estimated sell was for, and then does it tell you the loan amount? Let me, oftentimes, well, if someone knows where to find it on this, please let me know.
I've never been able to find it on either Washington or Benton County tax assessors.
Yeah,
Okay,
me neither.
Maybe that's
Also
privileged information that us agents get. I don't know where that data pulls from, but what I'll try to do is I'll find it and then get that out to everyone. Can I email Ryan to request for the forums he's giving today? The link in the chat isn't working. Oh, the link isn't working. Let me try to redo that then. All right. While we wait, what other questions do we have?
One thing I was going to suggest, I think for everyone that registered for this, if it sounds like we're trying to get everybody the PowerPoint, the different sheets. So you required an email essentially to register for this. So maybe Kathleen or myself can send all of this information to all registered applicants for this after the call, either tonight or tomorrow.
That would work.
Yeah. And I would say thank you, everybody. I hate to say thanks for your patience because I'm never that patient, but I appreciate the people who have stuck it out and stayed on the Zoom, and so we will get better. And you're awesome troopers. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll line this all out. One thing to note, I think, is if you are a real estate investor, Northwest Arkansas Real Estate Investor Association member, there is a forum on Facebook where we might start creating more chats. It's what's it called again, Kathleen?
You would go to Facebook and search for REI NWA Lounge. And it's for members only. So the way it works is that you have to request to join the group, and then I either will look you up if I don't remember who you are, or if I know you're a member, I'll give you access to that. And the lounge is a really cool place because the people who are on there are our seasoned investors, the ones who are actually doing it, the ones that are flipping or you know, the people are really working hard at this and making a living at it. And so I would encourage you to go there, and I'll hang out there a little bit if you're going to request to join. I'll hang out at the lounge myself and make sure that you get accepted when you do join tonight.
Yeah, and we just want to encourage people to ask questions. Obviously, with coronavirus, it's hard to get together, and whenever we're able to have these meetings, stick around. You ask tons of questions. You get to interact with people, meet people. That's a big part of what this group is about. And in the lounge, we want to start creating that idea where you can ask any questions, you can gain any sort of knowledge. This is supposed to be informative for you, and things are going to continually change. And we want to make sure you know that REI is going to do everything that we can to make sure that you're getting that information as the market changes, because it is an interesting time. So think about the lounge as an option. Anyone else that's thought about trying to get into the real estate, obviously a lot of things are changing right now. Who knows what the next 6 months, 12 months might look like. We're going to try and put that pertinent information there for our members. So if someone's thinking about getting in, that's a good way to get that information. We're going to continue getting better on the Zoom meetings also. And, I pray to God that in the next month or two, maybe we're actually able to get together and see each other's faces. So, but yeah, so we'll make sure to get all of this different information over to you as soon as possible. If not tonight, sometime tomorrow. And if you do have those questions, just shoot us an email and we'll get you those as well. So if there aren't any more questions,
let me just, Austin, let me do a little plug, because we finally made the last confirmation this afternoon, and next Wednesday at 6 o'clock, so that will be the 29th of April. 29th of April at 6 o'clock, we're going to have 3 bankers on our Zoom meeting, and we're going to talk about how the banks are handling investors in this time of coronavirus. So we've got Representative Sonny Delgado from United Bank, Sam Harris from Armstrong Bank, and Andrew Brink from Chambers. And they're going to talk about how their banks are looking at investors, the changes that they're implementing, and it's going to be an amazing program, and I've decided to make that members only as well. So that is on the 29th, next Wednesday at 6 o'clock, and then the following Tuesday at noon is our normal landlord lunch time, and we're going to have a couple property managers, and I hope to have an attorney, so that not property managers, but investors who are working with their tenants and trying to figure out how they're helping them and how they're working out all of these ways to keep people safe and keep our money flowing at the same time. And so however they're working those out, we're going to hopefully have an attorney to tell us whether what they're doing is legal or not, which is always something that I have to do, because my ideas turn out to be illegal most of the time. And so that is on the 5th of May at noon, and watch your emails, and we'll be sending out another notice, and I promise I'll get the links straight this time. So keep posted, and we'll try to keep in touch with you as well.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, I do want to emphasize that banker meeting next week. There's already been a significant amount of changes in how they're approving loans and different things. So if you do want to take advantage of the market or be in this for the real estate purposes, that's a great one to be at. So
cool. So let's have a round of thank yous for Ryan. You were one of the troopers that hung in there and got it all done for us. And we really appreciate Austin and we appreciate Ryan. And we're just going to keep plugging away. And then we'll see you in the perfect time.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Ryan. Great job. Thanks for getting us through that.
Thanks for having me on. Sorry for the trouble.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah. Look forward to the next one.
Thanks.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thanks for joining, everybody.
Thanks, Austin.
Thanks.
Okay.